to say welcome to you to listen and view this new program on the series we call The Majesty and Mystery of Life. Today we are going to present the cell for you. We all consist of cells. All organisms consist of cells. Cells are the building blocks of life. We have single-celled organisms like bacteria, but most life are multicellular life. The cell has various sizes and shapes. On an average, there are 100 cells per millimeter. The cell is surrounded by a membrane. In the cell body, which we also call cytoplasm, there are many structures which we may call organelles, that means small organs. The nucleus is also surrounded by a membrane called a nuclear membrane. The chromosomes containing DNA are located inside the nucleus. In the cell body, we have the factories that produce proteins. They are called ribosomes. In one single liver cell, there may be up to 1 million ribosomes. The liver is a biochemical center of life with constant high metabolic activity. The mitochondrion is another important organelle where we find the generators that produce the energy needed for life. The human body has about 210 different cell types. There are about a total of 35 trillion different cells in the human body. This is 35 followed by 12 zeros. We have nerve cells, muscle, skin, bone, and cartilage cells. We have cells for vision and hearing. It is somewhat strange to think that 9 months before we were born, we consisted of one single cell. After fertilization, this single cell has gone through a huge number of cell divisions. Many billion reactions have occurred while we were an embryo. Since all cells in our body have identical DNA, it is strange that the cells are different. We understand that at certain times some parts of the DNA are active, governing the reactions taking place, while at other times other parts of DNA are active. Genes are switched on and switched off. All this happens according to a specific plan. If you are born without any disease or malformation and are healthy and sound, all the billions of reactions taking place while you were an embryo have all occurred in a correct way. Random changes would have caused changes that might have been dramatic. If you were born sound and healthy, you are the result not of one miracle, but a huge number of miracles. We take a normal development of an embryo for granted, while they are in fact possible that many things could have turned wrong. I want to let you know that until a newborn baby is 9 months old, 250,000 new nerve cells are generated every minute. Each of us has a total of about 90 billion nerve cells. Shall we take a little pause here to give room for some quiet thoughts about the majesty of creation? The cell membrane is often looked upon as the simplest structure of the cell. One important function of the membrane is to keep all the constituents in place. Without the membrane, the content of the cell would move in all directions. Cooperation between systems to make complex functional units would then be impossible. The membrane is a dynamic and living structure. It consists of thousands of various phospholipids which form a double layer. Scientists do not know the membrane, how the membrane may be formed in the first place. The membrane of one cell must have the ability to move in relation to neighboring cells, and the cell surface has to be smooth and slippery. Specific substances make this possible. One important function of the membrane is to let particles move into and out of the cell. It has an active transport mechanism, and we will take a closer look at two examples of these mechanisms. This figure shows that glucose has to be transported into the cell. Glucose is a molecule that cannot diffuse through the cell wall. And to the left of the picture, you see a protein molecule, and that molecule is able to transport glucose from the outside of the cell and into the cell. And what is very special is that this transport molecule only binds to glucose, so it is only glucose that is transported by this molecule. And this gives me reason to think somebody has produced that molecule for glucose transport. And that somebody had to know that glucose is part of what we eat, and that glucose has to enter the interior of the cell because it is a source for the energy the cell needs. So this molecule depends on foresight. It could never be made by random, because you had to know about glucose molecule to make that a transport system. And this is another system. Ordinary water diffuses through the cell membrane. In severe dehydration, caused by vomiting or diarrhea, the aquaporine system is activated, supplying the cell with millions of water molecules every second. You see the cell membrane at the top, and here you see the precursors for the aquaporine. And when dehydration occurs, these react together and form an opening or channel in between the two red bars there. And that opening transports only molecule, no other substances. So these two examples, aquaporine and the glucose transport system, both require foresight and planning. The cell has a skeleton, or often called cytoskeleton, which gives the cell its form and shape. The skeleton makes the cell robust and strong, able to withstand pressure from the surrounding. The skeleton also serves as highways for intracellular transport. It consists of 3 different fibers of different sizes. Microtubules are the largest fibers. Actins is the thinnest fiber, and it is concentrated along the periphery of the cell. All the different organelles in the cells are kept in place by the cytoskeleton. This skeleton is of vital importance for the cell. It has an intimate cooperation with other parts of the cell and has great importance for correct development of the embryo during fetal life. The skeleton is a dynamic, vital structure in constant motion. The skeleton is broken down and rebuilt at all times. We now know that it plays an important role for the organism's health situation. This last picture shows how these thin fibers of the skeleton in every cell is built up in a very distinct way, so there is no room for randomness even at this nano level. And it is concentrated along the periphery of the cell. All the different organelles in the cells are kept in place by the cytoskeleton. This skeleton is of vital importance for the cell. It has an intimate cooperation with other parts of the cell and has great importance for correct development of the embryo during fetal life. The skeleton is a dynamic, vital structure in constant motion. The skeleton is broken down and rebuilt at all times. We now know that it plays an important role for the organism's health situation.